Welcome back to some professional Beyond All Reason. The Beyond All Reason 1v1 Alpha Championship semifinals. Money on the line and most important currency in Beyond All Reason. Bragging rights as well. A best of 3 battle between 2 of the best players in the game. Yes, I introduced the Cortex Commander from the UK. It is Mightysheep here on Theta Crystals. And on the other side, the American Cortex Commander. A lot of Cortex in the later rounds with their very micro-intensive early game. It's Goopy. Yes. Beyond All Reason. The RTS game taking the world. One aging RTS gamer at a time. No, it's not Total Annihilation 2. It's legally distinct. It's not Supreme Commander. It is different. And for right now, if you like and subscribe, limited time only, you can check out the description for my promo code to get the game absolutely free. The first 100 people to use that code and follow the link will be able to download for free. The rest of people will also be able to do so, but they won't feel as special. But you know what is special? And before we get into explaining the game, too much of the mechanics, Goopy with an aircraft plant, which is the equivalent of in StarCraft 2, if you could just rush a starport at the beginning of the game and build a battlecruiser. It's not quite a battlecruiser, but we do have a bomber early on. And I have never seen anyone, and he started in a different position here on Theta Crystals. The crystals you can reclaim. Before the bomber gets here, we gotta explain this. The hunter-gatherer mechanics. Yeah, sure, you can gather metal from those metal spots here. Metal points, pretty light on this map at 1.8. And you can reclaim either the natural resources like juicy golden minerals or the wrecks of your opponent's units. All right, we're gonna try that FPS cam. Hold on. Bombing run coming in. There should be, essentially, I'd be surprised if there are any real units. It looks like Mightysheep spotted it. There is an anti-air on the way, but the bombing run comes off. We're not sure what it hit, because I'm using this case. He's going for the wind turbines, but the bomber does get away. He tries to come in and wipe out a bunch of the wind turbines early on, to very limited success. Mightysheep. Spicy. And indeed it is quite a spicy build, as Goopy committed a lot of his early, well, essentially all of his early resources into that. And it wasn't a total failure, but, oh wow. He's going for an air trend? Okay, these are mechanics I barely understand right now, so I'm learning alongside you guys. I don't know what he's trying. He's trying to steal his units! So, when you stun a unit, you can pick it up in a transport. It doesn't matter who's you. Nice grunt you have there. Mind if I borrow it? Not entirely sure what the end goal, because this seems like a pretty roundabout manner to gain a grunt here. Especially as the transport struggles to climb them. Is he just gonna leave it on the mountain? Is this a tournament match, or what am I, like, is he just trying to intimidate him? I can't, what, yeah, let's see you get down from there. If he had gotten a constructor, that might be cool, I guess, but, like, he could build his own. It's not like it's his unit now. It's still Sheep's unit. What? He just gave him a nice scout on the high ground there that he usually wouldn't have in the early game. Because he doesn't have any air. And if he had brought a constructor up there, it would have been the same thing. In my amateur, inexperienced nature, it feels like Goopy has just helped Mightysheep. Let's look at, yeah, he just... Okay. I mean, we can go to the player view. Yeah, well, I'm gonna go to the goopy cam here. Which sounds weird, but... Okay, so yeah. Well. Anyways, beyond all reason, you gather metal and energy in order to build up an army. In 1v1, yeah, I was gonna launch into this whole explanation, but then Goopy comes over here and starts kidnapping some of his opponent's units, and then just, like, dropping them off in random locations, like a tornado of indiscriminate confusion. Anyways, so in 1v1, usually those early game units, now these maps are clearly designed more for 1v1, but those early game units are just so easy to get out on the field that a lot of the game does focus around the tier 1. A lot of games do end around the tier 1, much like mirror matchups in SC2. Though the higher level players we've seen able to control a lot more of the map and develop the economy and get to that tier 2 and sometimes even tier 3 tech, which isn't necessarily much stronger than 2, but that's a long way off. Another important mechanic before I was so rudely interrupted by whatever the hell Goopy was doing is the reclaim mechanic, because beyond all reason is a hunter-gatherer economy. You gather the metal, the energy in various forms. Most of these maps have wind as an efficient way to gather, so the wind turbines early on. Solar panels are for maps with a little bit less wind speed, but they have their strengths and weaknesses. Anyways, so when a unit dies, based on how much damage, I think if it's overkilled very hard or something, it doesn't leave a wreck, or if it's shot down or something. But otherwise, there's a wreck here. Like this construction bot left 72 metal on the ground, which is enough to slap together 2 more grunts. So not only are you rewarded for taking map control and gaining more resources, you're rewarded for battling and winning on either side of the map, because you can use either res bots like the Grave Robber or constructors in order to reclaim or potentially revive some of those wrecks using energy. So that's one of my favorite mechanics of the game. It adds a ton of depth and a reason to fight, both over ground and directly, which I think is very interesting. Oh, Goopy running in, getting that extra flanking damage on a lot of those grunts, but still some shurikens being added from Mightysheep. Those EMP fighters able to stun, potentially, which we saw Goopy use to kidnap some of the units earlier on. But now Mightysheep turning him, as they're both playing Cortex, so have access to the same unit. Well, right now, you can see the incomes here. Rarely is there too much of a disparity early, but we already see it, as Mightysheep does have about 200 more energy per second. And since they're both very reliant on wind so far, we're actually going to go to the Mightysheep cam. I'm going to try to keep jumping to the player camera so you can get an idea of what they're prioritizing. Also very cool, you can see where their mouse cursors are on the screen when we're not in that player cam. Which makes it a little more convenient, but a lot of the time spent. So while there is a mini-map, you can turn the screen just in, like, the mega map. I refuse to believe he's controlling like this, though. Are you telling me his camera's off to, like, he's looking at the edge of the world and he's just... does he have, like, a 39-inch monitor or something? What is it? What are you doing? Why are you not using the regular map over... I don't know. Who am I to question Mightysheep? Quite a jam. Alright, we're gonna go to the Goopy cam and see if he has a little more sanity in his life. As you can tell, we switch cameras and both players are clearly focused. Now, it is a main criticism of the game, I understand. And it takes a bit of getting used to until you get used to the icons, which are quite intuitive. But it is a lot more strategical in the sense that you are watching where your units are headed, but you're not watching exactly each unit fighting it out, as you do have access to the whole map at once. I think a big reason And I wouldn't mind any higher level players correcting me if I'm wrong, but a big reason why we see so much Cortex in these later rounds of the tournament is very simply, the grunts can out micro pawns indefinitely. It's kind of like phoenixes versus mutas. And grunts cost less. So when players are on the ball and can tell what they're, like, are keeping up with their opponent, the pawns are just never going to get. The pawn's the Armada infantry, the early infantry unit. So it does seem Cortex is quite popular, if only because Armada can't really field any infantry that really compete. Well, the time of infantry seems to have ended somewhat, as both sides have added in some tanks. We got incisor tanks up against the brutes. The light versus medium tanks, but numbers do very much matter here. That flanking damage you get from being on a different angle from the initial attacks. And Goopy now has units all over the place, closing in from the north and the south around the lake here, which he technically could, I guess, build ships in, but is mostly there as a terrain blocker for ground units. Oh, but some bombers for Mightysheep, trying to get something. Oh, those are some juicy looking wind turbine fields here. I promised the people that I would add a wind turbine FPS cam. You know those bombers are there. We're now watching. Oh wait, I really thought he would go for the wind turbines, but he's actually just hitting the metal extractors on the outside. Okay. I thought it would be more dramatic, but here come a bunch of the tanks in towards the center. I would say the main base, but at the end of the day, all you have to do is kill the commander. So, that's what matters. Nothing else. The shurikens are slowing this down, but the EMP doesn't do any damage. It just stuns. There aren't enough shurikens to hold them down for the brutes coming up. More reinforcements on the way, but with the shurikens stalling the attack. In fact, the tanks are kind of getting jammed up on the stun tanks as well. Some incisors pressing forward. More shurikens being added in. And Goopy's attack is stalled. Mightysheep adding some turrets. A whole bunch of grunts coming from the north side. Tanks from the south. More meeting them. Units being split off from either side. And we broke it again. Alright, minimap's back. Sometimes when I switch the camera settings. Believe it or not, this is an alpha tournament, despite how much more finished this game is than many $60 releases. Still in alpha. Open source, volunteers, and incredibly addicting. As hopefully I've gotten you addicted, so you keep watching these videos with Adbach off. Grunts swinging around to the west side. The metal income for Goopy. It might seem great, but he just threw away. How much reclaim is on the field? Looking at 500. And he's already grabbed a bunch of it. So when you do an attack like that, you get a bunch of damage done, but you don't end up accomplishing any meaningful objectives. Like, I don't think he really did much for the energy economy there. I don't think he found, like, he didn't make any meaningful progress towards slowing down Mightysheep's economy. So he did end up just feeding him several hundred metal. Do we have tier 2 on the way yet? No. In fact, even though you don't see the tier 2 tech, so far, both players have the 111. They have vehicles, aircraft, and bots all being added in. So the full tier 1 tech tree here, as they all have their place. The infantry for covering fire for the tanks, keep them from getting flanked. Shurikens and fighters dueling it out to stun the ground or take out the other shurikens. And the tanks for a whole lot of higher damage fire support. And something more meaningful for driving pushes forward. But if both players have tanks, they're easily able to match here. It looks like Mightysheep so far has been able to hold off the tank pushes. But Goopy, despite a mildly inferior economy. It really depends on the production speed as well, but has been able to maintain the aggression. And remember, it doesn't matter how much economy you have if you're able to get to the commander. Just a second or two out of position. The commander doesn't have a ton of HP. Even 10 grunts could potentially kill him, especially if they're not paying attention. So it is not out of the question. Though I think both these players quite aware of the commander. Goopy taking that northern hill as well as continually pressuring the south here. A lot of reclaim on the field. The bomber coming over the hill, taking some extra time. They can only fly so high. One bombing run wait. Oh, the bomber itself, though. Doesn't it killed the metal extractor. Yes, that can happen. It might not leave a wreck, but it may wreck things in turn. So, not exactly the most efficient bombing run. But at the end of the day, he does make something happen, I guess, so. Those turrets on the high ground here. The western hill. Holding for now. Goopy. There is a tempo advantage, I guess you could say, where he just keeps sending units across the map, and even though he technically, on paper, doesn't have the economy, he's using air constructors, fighter cover here. Goopy does seem to be overwhelming Mightysheep. He's cleared the hill. The grunts are running by. That's an armed metal extractor. Kind of rarely seen, but at this point, I think well justified. Do we have tier 2 for Goopy yet? He's got a lot of metal on the ground. He's actually maxed on metal, which is a bit of a mistake. As being maxed out on something, you don't share it with your teammate here. So, Mightysheep backing off. A lot of the metal extractors going down, but Goopy, his constant aggression finally paying off. He's managed to get air control, and with it, well, the air control has denied the shurikens and allowed his tanks to push forward. And that is the... Oh my god, the grunts are all the way at the back. Buildings are very fragile, essentially outside of some of the heavier turrets and the factories. So the grunts just... Oh my... He reclaimed it. He reclaimed it with the construction turrets. He deconstructed the grunts on the field. The last line of defense is the constructors themselves. But Mightysheep... Map control for Goopy has carried him this far. I'm surprised we don't see tier 2 tech, because Goopy's sitting on maxed out metal at the moment. Shuriken stalling out a small tank attack. Constant production. Can we see? Yeah, we got shurikens, brutes, and then a combination of grunts and the res/reclaim bots. Mightysheep seems to be kind of resecuring the position he once had, but Goopy is clearly more experienced with this full map aggression and is using it to great effect, even from the beginning of the game here. You see the production, that's shift space is the default to see the production queues. That also works when you're playing. So Mightysheep. Oh, we don't see the incomes because we're on the Goopy cam right now. But he knows he's done a lot of damage. He knows he's maxed on metal. The only thing we're missing is tier 2 tech. We've gone 18 minutes, which is not out of the question at all. Mightysheep, though. Ooh. You can see from Goopy. He's like, oh, that's that. You know, that's a lot of you. Like, that's starting to get pretty dramatic. Brings in the shurikens, the fighters to intercept. Clearly some aircraft coming in for Mightysheep here. But the fighters, well, they're very good against one another. He's looking to intercept. If at some point he loses air control, he loses the ability to stun those tanks with the shurikens, which is clearly what he's focusing on. He's building an advanced solar field over there. All right. Going to the everyone cam. Back to... Actually, no. Let's take Sheep's side of things. As he's gathering all this metal. Well, he tried tier 2 with all the metal on the ground still. I would say, so the reason you don't see tier 2 as quickly is how obscenely expensive it is. It isn't just a step up. It's not like adding on, I don't know, an armory in SC2. No, tier 2 is 2,900 metal compared to, which is essentially another 10, 15 tanks. And that's before you build anything. It's 2,900 metal, 16,000 energy, which is usually a little easier to come by. It's a huge drain on your economy, and it takes a long time to build. So in going for tier 2, you leave yourself open. It's like building 2 command centers, 2 engineering bays, and 5 more barracks. You've just invested a ton in things that have not yet paid off. But when they do pay off, you'll be doing good. And here we are. Well, as I said it, the advanced bot lab. But he doesn't quite have the metal. He's still gathering it off the ground here. How much is there? Whoa! I think the energy is from those crystals. But, 2,500 metal on the ground. And right now, Mightysheep is actually in control of the situation. Most of the wrecks are on his side of things. It looks like Goopy is actually rezzing the wrecks on his side of the map. Bit of a combination here, actually. Oh, wait, they're both rezzing. Using those res bots for exactly what you'd expect. Wow, that is a lot. You can see the little halos. The halos are units that were resurrected. His entire army is zombies. Jeez. Oh, both sides. They both live again, but here comes a big flank from Goopy, but I don't know if he has the unit count. Tier 2. He's adding some Twitchers in. Combat engineers. Oh, but here come the shurikens. Trying to engage. Is there enough anti-air? Some of the anti-air turrets are coming online. I don't think there are enough shurikens to really stall out. The tanks getting jammed up here on each other and the wrecks of the enemy tanks. And, oh, flamers. Yes, Goopy. Yeah, that's Goopy's tier 2 bot lab. I neglected to mention that because I didn't even notice. So clearly a big deal. The fiends is the technical term. I call them flamers because of the flame, believe it or not. Not a particularly hardy unit, though. Relatively fragile. Very good against a bunch of tier 1 infantry, but not so great against the tanks. And the tank count is still damn high right now. But here comes Goopy trying to drive through. Trying to get any sort of flank on all this. So far, limited success. Mightysheep is driving back, but he clearly has more units in this fight. The angle matters, the support matters, the flanking matters, but at the end of the day, I think the thing that matters most is who has more. Still, Goopy is relying very much on his aggression carrying him, because he's able to reclaim or res some of the tanks and add them into the fight while the fight is going on. As those res bots on the back line. It's very hard to tell exactly who's winning, because Mightysheep keeps getting pushed back. But Goopy, it doesn't look like he has that many tanks. I don't know, it's getting the tanks can't even move because of the bodies of their comrades. They're literally stuck. Like, it becomes impassable terrain until this is dealt with. Also, the wrecks can be destroyed, or they take collateral damage as well. But at the same time, apparently, the sheer amount of wreckage on the field is working to Goopy's advantage as he uses it to maneuver his tier 2 fiends through. Oh, some more fiends. Well, things are getting a little hot and heavy in the middle of the map here, as the bots are able to maneuver around the wrecks a little easier. Not particularly much so. Just continuing back and forth with Goopy. It seems like, well, bringing in a round of fighters to try to get some air control here. And indeed he has it. A handful of mines will trigger, and some of the fiends will go down with them. But once again, Goopy's repeated aggression and his commitment to pushing through has paid off. as he's able to claim that battlefield and most of the metal on the ground within it after a confusing and convoluted battle. We got some upgraded metal extractors or armed metal extractors here, but Mightysheep maintains a better energy income. He's got a fusion reactor now, which 1,000 extra energy. He's actually up to 34. Is there any fusion here for Goopy? So Mightysheep continues to have a more stable economy. Goopy has left the game. And then he rejoined, because you can do that. Okay. So there was a pause, and then he rejoined, because, of course, this game has that functionality. Occasionally. So, a quick... But we don't wait for anyone here. The sheep's like, well, I didn't think I was winning that hard. Or at all, really. I don't... Overall, it is a bit misleading, because Goopy has so much of the map. But Mightysheep has the economy. He's got some tier 2 metal extractors. I don't know how many Goopy has. You can see the big M's here are the tier 2 extractors. But Goopy's repeated aggression. Here comes a Juno. The Juno launcher clears minefields explosively, which I don't believe Sheep realized he had, and now will at this moment. It is quite expensive to build back in his base, but it clearly paid off. As pushing through, our metal extractors are not enough. He was relying a lot on the wall and the mines, but it proved not reliable enough, as the Juno was the right choice. And Mightysheep is running very low on units. Like, turrets are all well and good. The pop-ups of low batteries, which I've always said, I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it. It just sounds like a vaguely French word. So I'm just going to continue to say it like that. Anyways, they do a ton of damage and have a light AoE. So, very good against some of those, like, medium-sized tier 2 units. So how does Mightysheep get out of this? Russell here on the music player coming in with a, quite a profound name of this song. Fading Hope of Victory. Wow. Well, indeed. As Mightysheep. I don't even know what's hitting these fighters. Some of them getting gunned down. Technically, most things will shoot at aircraft. Only some of them are particularly good at it, though, is the problem. Fiends making their way. He has radar. Yep, he knows this attack is coming in. Actually, this is the first time I've seen anyone really use walls in 1v1. It does seem a bit of a desperation measure just to slow things down and funnel them. As right now, clearly, Goopy is just running through them, but fighters coming in. Oh my god! Remember how it started. Grunticus. First of his name. He remains on the pillar. He's been here the whole time. Oh. Well, the Resbot's on the run as the constructors have no defense against the fiends. The turret doing its best, but getting burned for it. Oh, the wind farms as well. Fiends trying to chase, but Goopy's constant aggression. He's just claimed the map. Mightysheep retreated behind his optimistic walls. And now... The thing is, Mightysheep still has 4K energy income. He's... Wow. This is certainly a way to do it. He's building a intercontinental ballistic missile launcher, which added to the list of things I've never seen in 1v1. Now that thing is highly expensive, and it takes quite a bit to build that first nuke. But of course, that is the epitome of one shot, one opportunity. And unlike in StarCraft, your buildings can't dodge. If there is no anti-nuke, which why would there be if he hasn't spotted it? Has Goopy seen it? He has. Yeah. Yeah, he's seen it. He can also build the anti-nuke bot. Wait. I believe that's tier 2 vehicles, not the bot lab like it is for Armada. But we will see. He does have just the tier 1 vehicle plant. Building another vehicle plant. I think he's salvaging the first one. Or he's just adding more. I don't know. A huge amount of production. Did Goopy really not? Because it should have... Yeah, 1,500 metal required just to build the nuke. On top of building the launcher, which is quite an investment. Is there the anti-nuke? Am I blind? There should just be like a no missile icon. I don't see it. He doesn't have any. No. There's no anti-nuke. He's seen the nuke launcher. And the game even has a notification, which honestly, as a pro player, he may have turned off. That's like, nuclear silo detected. I wouldn't be surprised if pro players or high-level players turned a lot of those notifications off, especially for team games. Uh-oh, though. Uh-oh. I mean... It feels like Goopy's held a pretty solid position throughout the game, but Mightysheep, at some point, you can rely on just your energy economy, because you can use your energy to convert it with metal converters, of which most players don't have too many of. Ooh, Spybot EMP. Self-detonated one of those Spectre bots. And, well... There you go. There's only one thing left to worry about in this game right now. Well, one is Mightysheep losing his commander. The second one is a nuclear missile landing. Which I did not expect to be mentioning, at the very least. Oh yes, here we go, the metal converters, and that's what this little widget is how much the converters are being used past the gray bar to convert into metal. Once you get enough energy production in the later game, that is how you do the exponential scaling. Well. Oh no. Don't you dare leave. He heard nuclear launch detected. As people have been mentioning so proactively, apparently his router crash canceled his orders. And now his entire base just got canceled by a nuclear missile. Even though the commander will live, Mightysheep admits to paying off the server czar. And also Goopy, as one of the only American players, is actually, wow, 300 ping. As the vast majority of the servers and players are in the beautiful country of Europe. Well, the game is not over, but that definitely adds quite a wrinkle to things. And by that I mean, there's no recovering from that one. Most of his economy and production were obliterated. GG. I got a feeling Goopy not hyped about it here. But game one will go to Mightysheep. He did maintain a better economy the entire game. It was just Goopy's aggression. You can see the units killed. Overall, they did very similar amounts of damage. In fact, Mightysheep, well, I think a little skewed by one specific thing. But Mightysheep, defensive, held on to his economy, but I did like Goopy's style. And, of course, it's not like we're done here. No. Game one. Well, we'll see. How many times, how much can he pay him off to fix that router? Or break it, actually, seems more accurate. But, Mightysheep versus Goopy. Game 2. Now, on the Crystallized plains, which was very different from Theta crystals. All right, crystals. Well, actually, I think the crystals on this map are the same. Like, they are energy crystals. It's loading, which is why I look like this. But here we are. Game 2 of the semifinals, the Beyond. Ah, yes. So, the explanation for that game that some of you may be so well versed in is apparently his router crashed. He built the anti-nuke. His router crashed or something. And it canceled, or it was queued up. And then it canceled the queued up orders, which does kind of make sense. Though, I will say, of all the things to double check, things that defend you against nuclear missiles are pretty high on the list. Though, obviously, I think the mistake a lot of people make, that I've seen, of those that have not played Total Annihilation, or are coming from, like, StarCraft, for example, are thinking the game is slow. The game is not slow. These players have hundreds of APM. The slowness, I think, comes a little from the fact that you can't just lose most of your economy or army in half a second. Nuclear missiles notwithstanding, of course. But there have to be a lot of things happen, especially past the first couple minutes. In fact, the first couple minutes have reverberating effects. Yeah. It sounded more profound before I tripped over that whole sentence. But as just building, say, 2 instead of 3, I think I would compare the amount of constructors built with, like, the difference between a 1-rack expand or a 1-gate expand and a command center first. Like, if you go for 2 constructors and then start building grunts, that's like a 1-gate expand. You focused on your economy, you got some basic units, you're developing the economy. You go for, like, 3 constructors, or even, like, air or something, well, that's like a command center first, where if you get away with it, you're going to be in a good spot. But if they choose to punish you, or if they go for something aggressive, aka like building a bunch of units early, then you're gonna have some trouble defending. Of course, part of the defense comes from the fact that even grunts can only get across the map so quickly, gives you some time to build up. And it's very different from team games, because in team games usually you get maybe up to 6 metal extractors, or mexes as they're known. But in 1v1, you oftentimes get, which amounts to usually 12 to 20 metal income, give or take. Whereas in 1v1, you can easily get 10 to 15, which could be up to 50. So the metal income is much higher than in team games. But also, you need to spread out your units and your defenses over even compared to some team games, a wide area. In this map, while there are some little choke points, there's I do like the double metal extractor layouts here. Clearly defensible if you put up a turret, but also each one of them is quite spread out and individually attackable. I'm coming around a lot to some of the 1v1 maps. There's some that are wide open, like Comet Catcher, I think we'll see for the finals, that are a little more of just a ring around the cluster where everything's wide open and can get counterattacked, but even having a few little choke points or hills obviously made a big difference. All right, so what I've come to understand as a relatively conventional start here, both sides sending out constructors to grab as many metal extractors as possible, while adding on grunts to pressure their opponents. And it's a bot lab for both players. The questions now will be, when do you add in vehicles? Maybe aircraft, usually vehicles. And what kind of advantages can you get with these early grunts? A res bot there. Is he going to revive it? Or is he going to reclaim it? It looks like he's reviving. I mean, getting an extra unit on the field. So the difference between resurrecting and reclaiming with those res bots, to my understanding, if you reclaim, you get the metal off the ground. So that can amount to like 30 to 60% or so of however much metal the unit costs. So a nice little down payment there. Resurrecting, on the other hand, does not cost metal. It costs power or energy. So while you don't get that metal boost, which you don't need as much of in 1v1, you do get another unit, and it costs you no metal. So you saved metal to have another unit, but it usually takes longer, and you have to repair the unit and all that. So it is a bit more of a time investment and micro-intensive, but it could potentially pay dividends, which I think is why we see, even this early on, an attempt at it. Does repair cost metal? I am not sure, actually. I'm pretty sure it doesn't. I think it is just power usage, but I very much could be wrong. It is just power, okay. Repair is free, or it costs energy. We got two different... well, either way, it doesn't cost metal. So there's that. Okay, it's just energy. And energy is... depends on the situation, pretty free. Of course. So, anything you can do to keep units alive or put them back on the field, pretty big deal. Especially when you both have the same units and you're battling it out. Oh. So, I will say, I don't know if we have any control over this, but what's really throwing me off is that Goopy is now the red player and Mightysheep is blue. So, not too hard to come around to, but after spending over 30 minutes in that last game with the opposite colors, it does get a little confusing. All right, so here we go. A bit of a base trade scenario. We'll have to see how much of a trade. Mightysheep splitting off some of his grunts to distract another pack of grunts, easily distracted, in order to punch through the center choke point. Whereas, wow, Goopy actually pulling back with everything. Not even bothering to try to do some I'm not sure if that's... He's just sending everything back, which feels like a missed opportunity here from the strategical cam, which is what it's called. That's the technical term. To do some potential economic damage. You had more than enough grunts there, but sending everything back. You can even see the little mouse cursors of each player. In fact, I'm gonna make that a little more, because of course you can do this. But I'm gonna up the look of it so it's more clear. You can see where they're looking and focusing. I gotta say, Mightysheep is definitely taking advantage of this position. And from the overview here, let's see what he's doing. I wouldn't be surprised if it's very similar camera. Yeah. As he's clearly outmaneuvered Goopy on the field here. He's maintaining a big advantage in terms of... Wow, he's got triple the metal income now. Goopy's down to like 3 metal. Wow, it's a total disaster. He got metal extractors left, right, and center, whereas Goopy got nothing on the other side. So Mightysheep is now adding tanks in, whereas Goopy is stuck on the vehicle. He doesn't have a vehicle plan. So I think a definite missed opportunity there for the American. And this feels a lot different than the previous game, where there was like kind of a shift in tech, where Sheep had a little more economy, but he didn't have as much map control. This time, Mightysheep has more economy and more units. There isn't like Goopy has aircraft and Sheep has tanks. No, it's just bots and tanks versus just bots. Which, well, we'll see how Goopy drags himself out of this one. Gotta get to the DDoS machine. Tanks able to take their equal number in grunts pretty easily, but of course cost several times as much, so. '60s. The metal extract, you can, I mean, even more than in StarCraft, you can clearly tell. Especially, I would say, in the early game. As time goes on, how you develop the economy is more important. Like, whether you're getting fusion reactors, and you're relying on metal conversion, or energy conversion, or reclaim for your economy. But I think in the first 10-15 minutes, especially before Tier 2, you can clearly see, just on the overview, who has more of the map, because they almost always have more economy. It does not look good right now. Finally gets his vehicle plant up, but I don't even know how much radar coverage is back here, because there are so many little mountains and hills breaking it up. Radar, it does matter where you put the radar tower. If you put it high up, it can see further. But if I don't believe this radar tower sees behind these rocks over here. Might have caught a glimpse, but yeah, a lot of things that break up the radar coverage on this map. Several of the tanks punching through the center. It's mostly just is he gonna try to like aggressively reclaim? repossess those units. Not quite yet. Goopy just punching through into... He's killing a bunch of the res bots, which are pretty cheap, but obviously not the best usage of them. Even actively taking some of those metal extractors, so... Goopy taking a little bit of control back, even though Mightysheep is over on the right flank and the left here. Right through the center, though, Goopy making some progress. Gonna kill a few of the construction bots. Over to the right. Oh, still one grunt finished off whatever was left. The tanks chase down the construction bots and find a few of those easily picked off turrets as well. Mightysheep is securing the center of the map once again. The res bots very optimistically trying to do their work over on the top right side, but why are there res bots back here? Goopy, not Goopy, Mightysheep. He's reclaiming, actually, which goes very quick compared to actually resing. Oh my god, the grunt king, he's definitely paid off. Like, he's getting so much metal. Each of these is like 20, 30, 40. Even if he gets a couple wrecks with each of those bots, it's paid off for the res bots. He's also, especially if you consider he's denying Goopy that reclaim. So, not just grabbing it for himself, but a net negative for Goopy as well. Well, a few grunts to tank quite literally shots, even though friendly fire definitely is a possibility with these tanks involved. Goopy trying his best to make some progress out on the map. But that one big sweep of the field that Mightysheep was able to pull off feels like it's defined the next few minutes of the game. And now the economic advantage is still very much in favor of Mightysheep. Still a couple units at the very back there. The tank count. Well, clearly it's not going well here, as the tanks are just running over the field. Though, here comes Goopy with most of the rest of them doing his best. Ooh. Even the res bots getting in on the action. Well, grunts in from the other side. Tanks kind of getting jammed up. They're able to shoot over each other, but it's not exactly it's not an exact science, clearly here. We got turrets fighting each other up to the north side. Goopy's managed to put enough tanks on the field to make a game of it here, but if he gives up any ground, well, oh, the commander. I guess a few D-guns could either lose the game here. Well, Goopy. Oh, well, D-guns won. But the tanks can outrange the commander's D-gun relatively easily. Though I don't know if there are enough of them to actually kill it. Trying to set it up. D-gun's another. Doesn't leave much reclaim, aka none. Problem is, the tanks just drive by. The commander looking on. Feeling a bit impotent right now. GG. WP. The nuclear fallout seems to be radiating into this game, as Goopy just not able to get much of a presence at all. Clearly Mightysheep with the advantage economically ever since the great grunt trade. I think a very clean execution and a demonstration of how important map control is, and just managing different sides of the map. At some point coming back, now this is an important fact. Grunts are the same speed as grunts. So, chasing down those units is sometimes a futile endeavor. And Mightysheep just slipping by the defenses and undercutting a lot of the production will secure his spot in the Beyond All Reason 1v1 Alpha Tournament Finals. A best of 5 coming up soon. Hopefully you enjoyed. Make sure to use that promo code by liking and subscribing and finding the link. I hope I made your day a little bit better. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Good luck. Have fun. Stay chill.